Hi everybody. I'm quite regularly asked by members and envoys of Republic of Old Souls, why am I doing this? You know, why am I spending literally 7 days a week, probably 60 plus hours a week, working on the all the various projects that I'm involved in for the benefit of our members and envoys. And I've recently done an interview with Mel Clark on the Never Settle podcast, and I also did an interview on ROS Media with Andy Benson that went through my vision for a freedom sovereign nation. And this document here explains a little bit more about the plan and how it comes together, and more importantly how it's financed and what the real benefits of joining in with it are. And this is the main reason, this is the underlying and the driving force, the underlying reason and the driving force behind what I am doing. As I've said many times, until I'm blue in the face, I am not running Republic of Old Souls, formerly Matrix Freedom. I don't need to make money. I have a talent for trading systems. I've built many automated trading systems in my career. I successfully trade the sports markets. I've built a system that like Tony Bloom of the owner of Brighton Football Club, and Matthew Benham, the owner of Brentford Football Club. They trade sports markets, predominantly football, betting systems. I have built a system like that. It's equally as good as theirs. I do not need to make money from what I'm doing in terms of what was the Matrix Freedom Plan, now the Republic of Old Souls. I don't need to make money from membership subscriptions. In fact, members do not pay me anything at all. I've never collected any fees or subscriptions from members. I don't provide any services to the members outside the information that I provide. Information, the webinars, the technical documents I write for the Ecclesia Law Institute, etc. And all members have only ever paid for administrative services. They've never paid for guaranteed outcomes. There has been a lot of evolution over the last 5-6 years. We're now in a position where we've got a range of protocols available for our members to basically step off of the or out of the control systems and control their commerce on the monopoly board. As I've mentioned in many webinars, I've broken it all down, etc. So we have out there, we have a very large proportion of those that are interested in this subject who somehow believe that I'm a fraudster, I'm a scammer, I spend all my time dreaming up scam schemes and fraud schemes. And then we've got those that come to my webinars and those that actually pay attention to what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and why I'm doing it, who actually think that there is a calling here. I'm doing this as a calling. It is a purpose that I've been given to deliver this plan that I'm going to talk about here to those who want it. Now, not everybody wants freedom. Not everybody wants to be the master of their own destiny. A lot of people are very happy by being controlled by the system. They're programmed to believe that it's a good thing to be governed by the government, to be controlled by the various control systems that are out there. And if you're in that position where you quite enjoy being controlled and steered along, then this plan is not for you. But if you're one of those like me who like to have a say in the direction I'm taking, to have personal freedoms, to be able to decide what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it, if you're one of those out there which is very much the archetype that I have, then you're going to be interested in what I'm going to explain here, because this is the plan that's taken me years to develop. I believe it's the only plan of its type in the world. So it's pretty unique as a plan, as a freedom plan. It is only available to a very tiny percentage of the world population, because, as you'll see in a moment, it's only going to be available for up to about 800,000 people, maximum, very, very maximum. And there is a reason why. It's more than likely only going to be available for a much lower number than that. Somewhere between 100,000 and 500,000 is probably more likely to be the case. So if you take the world population, however many billion that is, and say that perhaps 500,000 people worldwide could take part in this and join the Republic of Old Souls as a sovereign nation, then you're talking about a tiny percentage. 500,000 out of however many billion there are, it's a very, very small percentage of people that can join in on this. We already have thousands that have joined in so far, and my prediction is that that number will rapidly swell during 2026, and it will accelerate, and the momentum will get behind it as people start to realise that this plan is a very viable option if you are seeking freedom from the control agenda. So the Republic of Old Souls is a very structured plan, which I'm going to go through here, of how to get freedom from various control agendas that are all running in parallel. I've spoken in great detail on the ROS Media platform, Andy Benson, the interview with Andy Benson a few days ago. If you go to the ROS Media platform, you'll be able to see that. It's also going to be published on our social media channels within the next couple of days. I'm going to place it here for you. Basically what we have is we have an opportunity to join in on this plan, but it is constrained by how much signature credit can be recouped by those that are in the signature credit or abandoned credit recoupment program. It's been called different things over the last few years. It's been called bank payment recoupments, it's been called infinite money, it's been called currency creation. All of those things pretty much are the same thing, because they all are the recoupment of signature energy, signature credit energy, which I've also gone into in a great deal of detail on my webinars, in my technical papers at Ecclesia Law, etc., etc. So the basic constraint of the freedom and sovereign nation that I am building is that there is only a certain amount of tax that can be recouped from the United States Treasury. That tax is tax for the use of the signature credit, and the amount of tax that is being paid by the nominee banks is what we are recouping against for those in the signature credit recoupment programs that we offer. So there is a limit, and the limit is constrained by the amount of taxes being paid by the nominee banks, which are predominantly the investment banks, and how much they pay each year is the amount that we can recoup, and it's all explained in my technical documents. So what is the problem? Basically the control agenda is the problem, and there are aspects of it which I've gone into great detail on my interviews. You've basically got the AI revolution that's going on at the moment, which will displace, is predicted about 60% of the workforce going forward will lose their jobs to AI, and that will push those people into the universal basic credit, the UBI, or universal basic income. It's like a benefit system, and in exchange for that, people will lose their freedoms, will lose their property, which they actually don't have already, but that's a subject for a different day, and they'll be picking up the universal basic credit or basic income. The other problems are UN Agenda 2030, sold to us as sustainable goals to help save us from the environmental issues. I've gone into that in great detail in the interview. These sustainable goals are basically control agendas. I break it all down in my very, very detailed interview with Andy Benson on the ROS Media platform. And then you've got all sorts of other aspects, and one of the most scary is the transhuman agenda, where the nanobot technology, which is in the atmosphere, it's in the food, it's in the water, it's in obviously the injections that a lot of people took, it's in pharmaceuticals, it's in everything. These nanobots are in our bodies, whether we agree or not that there are nanobots. The only people that don't agree are those that haven't done any research. So whether you like it or whether you don't like it, there is a nanobot element in your body right now, and they're able to program how you behave and what you do and how you do it going forward through the 5G, which will soon be the 6G network, which will be able to beam signals into your body. The nanobots will respond to those signals and control your behaviour. It's not a science fiction movie, it's absolute reality. I go into it in more detail. There's plenty of other research available on the ROS Media platform about it. So that's the problem that we're all facing. Now, for the overwhelming majority of the world's population, they're not aware of this control agenda. They're not aware of the threat of AI. They're not aware of the threat of the UN Agenda 2030. They're not aware of the transhuman agenda. But for those people who are aware of it, they want a plan as to how they can avoid it and how they can break free from it without going to war, because you can't go to war with this agenda. You can't rise up, as David Icke says, and just say, no, I'm not going to do it, because the plan is too powerful to push back against. So my solution, which I've been working on for years, is to create a sovereign nation that has its own infrastructure. So you do not need the power, the water, the food, the internet, the currency, the healthcare, everything else that most people rely upon, that is supplied to us from the very people that have got the agenda to control us. If you want to break free of their control agenda, then you need access to your own infrastructure. That is the Republic of Old Souls sovereign nation plan, is to provide that independent infrastructure that everybody needs in order to live. Well, it's a great plan. It's a very big plan, I realise, and a lot of people are going to say, you must be mad, Ian, how on earth are you going to finance that for anything up to, say, 500,000 people? Well, before we get into that, I want to outline the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. This is an independent nation, a sovereign nation. It doesn't have its own land. It is recognised as a sovereign nation. I'm building my plan on the precedent of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. I believe that the Republic of Old Souls can achieve its own status as a sovereign nation in the same way as the Sovereign Military Order of Malta has done for a long time now, many centuries actually. If you look at the self-declaratory nature of a nation, you don't have to get UN approval or some sort of approval from all the other governments out there. You can declare a nation. It doesn't have to have land. It doesn't have to have borders and armies and navies. It can be a self-declared nation. And if it's got all of the elements that are described in the Vienna Convention, it will be recognised as a nation. Now, if it's got its own infrastructure, then it doesn't need any of the infrastructure that is provided by the cabal, those that want to control us. If it has its own nation status, if it has its own infrastructure, then it can operate independently of all of the other nations and how they all rely on the cabal's infrastructure. So this goes into it. You can read this document. It's on the Telegram channels, and it will also be available in the platform, in our platform and elsewhere. And I'll probably do another interview on this with Andy Benson going forward and break it down even further. So it's all described in there, how you create a sovereign nation, how you get it recognised. And then let's get into what do people do? At the moment, you've got many people with debt, with tax bills, with problems with debt and taxes, problems trying to make a living. The cost of living's rising. it's getting more and more difficult. Well, I've developed a range of protocols. They're called the 𝐿𝐴 protocols. They have been specifically designed to be able to put you in control of your world of commerce. I call it the Monopoly Board of Commerce. You're able to navigate through debt repayment, you're able to navigate through taxes, you're able to navigate through abundance and achieve all of those things. It's all described in the 𝐿𝐴 protocols. I break all of those down on webinars. You can see short videos, you can watch webinars, how I break them all down and how I use my financial engineering capabilities to solve complex problems. So basically, debt and tax is the two main problems on the Monopoly Board of Commerce. Those can all be solved by the recoupment of signature credit. I've gone into this in great deal of detail. I've gone into it in multiple documents. You can read them all at the Ecclesia Law Institute. Look at the Ecclesia Law website and you'll see the Institute and all the research papers. I've gone into it in exhaustive detail. How it works, why it's lawful, does it work? I show examples of it. I've recorded videos of tax transcript evidence of people that have had recoupments. And this is an absolutely lawful process that is at the heart of how to finance this nation, because the nation, once you've navigated and you've controlled debt, you've discharged debt by the recoupment of your abandoned signature credit, you've discharged taxes, you've got an abundant lifestyle. If there are any problems on the Monopoly Board with disputes, then you can use the art of legal warfare. I talk a lot about that in the webinars and breaking down how you can use the art of legal warfare to beat opponents who are looking to take something from you on the Monopoly Board of Commerce. And then we get into the really big, the main pillar of the financing of the sovereign nation. For those who've come on my webinars, you will know that the United States went into bankruptcy. That's the United States Incorporated went into bankruptcy in 1933. It's House Joint Resolution 192. That created a scenario where there was no money of substance. The backing of what we call money is human energy. The energy gets onto the Monopoly Board through the body corporate birth certificate construct. That is a banker. I've explained it all in great detail in my research papers, on my webinars, in my interviews. The construct of the birth certificate construct is issuing negotiable instruments onto the Monopoly Board of Commerce. Bank payments, mortgages, loans, even the tax deductions from your wages and your remuneration is the issuance of signature credit onto the Monopoly Board through the banks that are operating as nominees. There is a way of lawfully recouping that signature credit. It's all explained in great detail in my research papers. That signature credit is tax because the investment banks are paying taxes to the United States Treasury for the use of our credit. That's our signature. That's why it's called signature credit. We can recoup it back through setting up a nominee trust structure. Again, I've gone through it in great detail in my research papers. You can recoup that signature credit back through an international grant or trust, and that's the only lawful way of doing it. And basically every year you can spend and recoup that signature credit energy. You can spend it through your trust and you can recoup it back to your trust. There's a couple of trusts actually. So how much signature credit can be recouped year by year, and how does the sovereign nation finance itself? Well, according to my research, there's about 200 billion a year in corporate taxes being paid by the nominees that are using our signature credit energy. So those are the big investment banks. I've listed some of them here. How much they're paying on what's called their 945 tax modules, how much they're paying in other taxes. All of this tax is tax on the use of our signature credit. Our credit is what's backing money. There's no gold backing it. There's no fractional reserve. it's a signature credit based system, as I have described in my technical papers and broken it all down. So basically there's 200 billion a year being paid by the nominee banks to the United States Treasury. That is the budget that we've got to recoup against. Those taxes actually belong to the living men and women, because at the moment they're going to the United States Treasury, and the United States Treasury doesn't really need any taxes because of the 𝐂𝐥𝐢𝐳 credit creation model. I won't go into all that because that's not really the purpose of this video. And there is a percentage of the credit recoupments that our members are doing that finances the Republic of 𝐂𝐢𝐳 as a sovereign nation. So if you just take 20% of all of the recoupments, if there was 200 billion of being recouped each year by all the members recouping their signature credit, and by the way, that won't bankrupt the United States or the United States Treasury. I've explained all of that in a research paper just recently. Basically, the governments can create money out of nothing. They can create 𝐂𝐥𝐢𝐳 credit. There is no reason why there is any taxes, apart from it's part of a control agenda. It's all explained in my research papers. So if there is 200 billion of recoupment potentially for say 500,000 of our envoys, depending on how much they are individually recouping, if it's 1 million, that means that there's a budget for 200,000 envoys. That would be the amount of the population size of our sovereign nation. If it's 500,000 each one is recouping, then we can have 400,000 in our population, our envoy population. If it's 250,000 each year as an average, we can have 800,000. I believe it's somewhere between 100,000 and 500,000 is probably the population size that we will achieve through the Republic of 𝐂𝐢𝐳 as a sovereign nation. Now, those taxes that we're recouping from the nominees don't cost them any more either, if you're wondering. We're not asking the banks to pay more in tax. The banks pay their taxes to the United States Treasury, and we recoup through the Clifford Protocol, which is the technical and the process from A through Z. I've described it. It's called the Clifford Protocol. Again, you can go and look at it on the 𝐂𝐥𝐢𝐳 law website. You can read about it, or you can come to my webinars and I break it all down there. I did a webinar just recently that goes through A through Z on how it works with examples, showing you all the references, etc., etc. Now, if we take 20% of that 200 billion, you've then got 40 billion a year of financing to finance the rollout and the infrastructure costs of an independent nation with its own power, with its own water, with its own healthcare, with its own travel, with everything that is required to deliver to the members who want to have an independent existence and be an envoy of Republic of 𝐂𝐢𝐳, which is planned to be and will be a sovereign nation. Energy, water, food, independent communications, independent travel, all of these things financed by that 20% share of the recoupments. And by the way, that 20% share doesn't cost anything to the envoys, because we engineer it so that they recoup that back. So they will be able to recoup their signature energy from the age of 18 or 21, the age of majority, and they will be able to spend it and recoup it and spend it and recoup it through their private treasury. I've explained all of this on my webinars, etc. And that 20% of that is financing the sovereign nation. That is why I'm doing this. It's all about freedom. It's all about creating a sovereign nation. I believe it's the only viable plan that's available to those who are seeking freedom. Many of our members already know that's what we're doing, and that's why they're very excited by it. Some, a huge number out there don't know that this is the driving force and the motivation behind what I am doing and why I'm doing it. But it's not any what and why, it's how. Most people that are seeking freedom don't really have a plan. My plan is very carefully thought out. At the centre of the plan is the recoupment of signature credit. and that is why I've spent so long developing it. It's not because I want to make money from it. I can trade the markets, as I mentioned earlier, and obviously I can recoup my own signature credit, because I'm probably arguably one of the world's leading experts on signature credit recoupment. Why would I need to make money from others? I can just recoup my own signature energy, and I can trade the sports markets. Why on earth would I need to be doing this just to make money? I'm not doing it for money, I'm doing it for freedom.